which is absolutely insane. Like, I can't believe that. Yeah, I really didn't know.
Between the Lines podcast, it's all about breaking down lyrics with my favourite artists, and emphasis on the word favourite today, because often I meet an artist that I'm going on this journey with them, I'm enjoying it. They might be new artists to me at different points in their career, but the particular artist that I'm sitting with right now, Charlotte Day Wilson, I feel reminds me of like a very poignant time in my career, being on BBC Radio 1 Extra late night on a Tuesday, and feeling like I had found something, a project, an artist that I really wanted to champion and support, and I've been lucky enough to do that with you, and now you're sitting here.
Yeah, man, appreciate you always.
No,
yeah. Like, I have the same feelings, you know. It was like some of my first times coming to the UK, and you were always one of the people that I would link with and make sure that we got an interview, went out to see some music. So appreciate you always.
And I have another memory that's not as I'm not as proud of, and that was Love Saves the Day. You came over. It's a Bristol festival, 2017. Mm-hmm. You came over, Bad Bad Not Good, in a tiny little tent, and played. And I came over at soundcheck to say hi to you, but I'd been having a boozy day. Yeah, real boozy day. And I think Sam was like, my partner, when we walked away, he's like, I think you scared Charlotte.
No. I, first of all, don't remember that.
Good.
So I might have been in the same state. You never know.
Yeah.
But also, I feel like that's like the UK festival way.
Definitely.
It's a sloppy environment.
We are.
Seems. So, you know, you were just doing as one does.
When in Rome,
yeah.
You know? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that I just mirrored what you thought it would be like.
No, you would never scare me, because also I've had my share of those.
Okay, good. Is it as, festivals, you do lots of shows, shows for yourself, but obviously festival shows as well. Is the Canadian festivals, are they a bit like cleaner than UK festivals in that way? Yeah,
but maybe what they have in cleanliness, they lack in vibe.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know though. There's some pretty grimy ones too, actually. Yeah. I haven't played a ton of Canadian festivals when I really think about it. So I don't know if I could really compare it, to be honest.
Okay, can't comment on the Canadian crowd at festivals, and we wouldn't want you to be cancelled at home.
Yeah, no.
So we move on. But 7 years later, we meet again, and it's so nice to be around the sort of the second album cycle, sophomore album. Did you get that like second album pressure, or the jitters, or the the sort of like the phantom thing of having to go through it again?
No, I think in a lot of ways I had viewed like the EPs that I put out as full projects. Like when I first started, putting out 2 EPs that they were like kind of more substantial than usually an EP maybe is sometimes. So like I felt like those were my first albums in some ways.
Yeah.
And so I maybe had more jitters with Alpha, my first full length album. And then with this one, and I think also there was like, I was in a place with my career at that time where I was feeling the pressure of like, there were eyes on me in a way that there hadn't been before. And I was adjusting to that and, trying to figure out how to still stay true to what I wanted to express, but then also like hearing other voices in my head and kind of battling those critical voices that I would hear sometimes. And then now I would say like with Cyan Blue, the album that came out this year, I think I've just like matured a lot and I don't care about what people think. And, obviously I want people to connect with the music, and that's my goal as an artist, is to connect with folks and connect creatively and energetically. And, I think when people all can connect on something, that means that we're in the right place at the right time. And so that matters to me. However, I'm not trying to please anyone else other than myself. And my whole approach with this album was just to have fun making it, because I don't know if I had fun making my last album. And I think that like, that's usually what we get into music for, is to like not do the typical life path of, something that we don't enjoy doing. And, maybe I had strayed a little bit far from that. And so, I just wanted to have fun making it, and I did. So,
yeah, that's so important. I mean, you spoke about like connecting, and you do so many big numbers. I mean, like, I can look at the numbers and you think about millions of people that have streamed, the songs across your catalogue. And that comes from that doesn't come from that's not from a viral moment. So it didn't pop off on TikTok one day, or you did the sped up version, the slowed down version.
Yeah, for sure.
They're genuine songs that people keep on coming back to listen to, and they come back millions of times. So there must be something in that way, you know. Do you think if you was to think up maybe outside yourself, or maybe songs that you listen to over and over again, what is it that's bringing people back?
Honestly, I have no idea. I don't know. I'm just grateful for it because it's true, you know, like, and, you know, before we got on camera, we were just talking about like social media, and I don't feel like that's like a tool that I really have the reflex to use. And so, you know, where I might not have like as much of like engagement on social media, I have it on things like Spotify and whatever. That's really what matters to me the most. It's like if people are engaging with the music, that's more important to me than any other kind of medium or
metrics.
Yeah. But I don't know if I can say what connects people to the music. I think hopefully it's just honesty, like,
yeah.
And I don't know. Yeah.
I think it's, you know, when you find a song that maybe like talks to you in that moment, you know, and reflects where you are, you know, in that moment. So you kind of end up starting to grow with that song. And maybe it's like a formative time, a breakup, a marriage, you know, having a baby, you know, your relationships, your pet, you know, there's so many different things that people assign songs to in different moments of their life. And I think that's what kind of brings, you know, people back, because it's like that reflex memory as well. Like, you know, I don't know, let's take Work, you know, for example, or for me, like In Your Eyes, like that song, I know where it like transports me to, you know, I know that younger version of me. And so even though I've grown past that version, there's still something familiar and warming about it.
Yeah. I mean, that's what music is so amazing for. It's like so transformative. It can bring you somewhere so quickly. It's like scent, you know, like as soon as you hear something that was of a certain time in your life, you are brought back there so viscerally. And all we can do as artists is write whatever is going on in our lives. And, you know, whether we embellish those stories or tell them, you know, verbatim, kind of like as a fact, whatever it is that you're going through and needing to express, like someone probably has been through something similar, you know, and so I guess that's what I've tried to like learn and stay with, is that like it might not seem like the most important life event that you've ever been through. However, like if it's specific enough and true enough to, I don't know, something that matters to you, then it probably matters to someone else too. And yeah, I think just like allowing yourself to be open and finding yourself as a vessel for those stories that's all I try to do, you know. It's
interesting you said that it might not in the moment be the, you know, you might not think it's like the biggest thing to write about. And you actually mentioned something the other day on Twitter about like small joys, like finding small joys.
Yeah.
But I wondered actually, like, where do you know, I don't know, an experience happens to you. Where do you then, what's the chain of reaction to be like, this has happened, I need to process it, I need to write about it?
I don't even know how to articulate it, to be honest, because like, I don't really have I'm not like, ooh, this thing happened, and in the moment, let me go and like write about it right away. It's more like I might just wake up one morning and sit at the piano and be like, well, this is a morning where I'm going to drink my coffee and sit at the piano, and like I do most mornings, and suddenly something starts coming out of me that I didn't realize I needed to work through, you know? So it's not really a conscious or like active thing of like, ooh, this thing happened, like, let me now
write a note, tap on this day.
Yeah.
You know, we speak through so many different artists, and their process sort of, you know, differs. Some things connect on that are similar, some things are like wildly different. But we were talking about before about morning pages in previous interviews, like waking up and writing out your subconscious. So that's almost like your version of morning pages is to go straight to the piano with a cup of coffee, and then whatever comes.
Yeah, and sometimes no words come. Sometimes it's just piano, you know. Some days it's not about expressing something verbally. Sometimes it's about expressing feelings through an instrument. And I think that's also like another, I don't know, a tool that I'm really grateful for, is like to be able to express myself instrumentally is like a beautiful thing too. And I think that's why I love playing with people who are so amazing at their instruments, folks like Bad Bad Not Good, and even the folks in my band, like super amazing instrumentalists, because that in itself is like such a difficult thing to do. Like to express yourself with words is in a lot of ways more easier than it is to express yourself through an instrument, because to learn how to play an instrument well is like, it's like a science, you know. There's math involved. There's such a technical skill set to have it in some ways in order to be able to do it, but to know how to like close those channels of like technique down and just like use your instrument as a vessel to like connect with something higher, that's really hard. And you know, I really respect folks who do it.
And I guess there has to be an element, you know, of if you're trained, you know, you're a trained pianist, and coming from that school of thought, like a classical school of thought, but then to unlearn some of that, that I guess the sort of rigidness, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's a whole process of unlearning, like you said. And I think I play guitar as well. And like there's some maybe kind of like subconscious thing that my brain did where it was like, we are going to completely not allow you to be able to translate your knowledge of theory from piano onto guitar. And because we want you to be free on guitar, because I don't know anything that I'm doing on the guitar. Whereas like everything that I play on the piano, like I'm classically trained, I understand the theory of it all. And like, you know, I can articulate exactly what I'm doing on the piano. But when I have the guitar in my hands, I literally have no idea. Wow, I don't know the notes. I don't know the chords. But it's just like, I think I love having that tool. And I think I've also just rejected like trying to learn it because I'm like, I don't know, I play things that are like maybe more just like simple and evocative of a feeling rather than, oh, is this like a cool like inversion of this chord that like is going to impress people, you know? So yeah, it's cool to have both ways.
Yeah, I understand that a little bit. Like I think about like radio and DJing. Like radio is very much like I studied it, I know it, I know what works, I know how it's made, I know why it does this. But then with like the DJing, it's a lot more spontaneous, and there's so many things that I genuinely don't know. But then I'm also like, I don't know if I want to know. Yeah. What if I just wanted it to happen?
Well, you do know because you're doing it.
But I don't know how to articulate it, like you said.
But that's why I think it can be easier to enter into a flow state when you aren't just not thinking about how it's being done. You're just allowing it to flow through you.
Yeah. When did that ritual of getting to go into the piano in the morning start?
Honestly, it started when I lived alone for the first time and I was able to make noise for the first time. Without disrupting anyone. And yeah, I don't know. For me, it's like the morning time is when I'm the most creative and like open. And I personally get excited to wake up every single day. Like I'm so excited about my coffee in the morning and I'm so excited to either read a book or play piano. And I feel so lucky to have that in my life. Like I know a lot of people aren't able to wake up and play the piano or, you know, they got to rush off to work or whatever it is. And so yeah, I count my blessings that I'm able to do the things that kind of, bring me the joy in the morning.
Yeah, and they're the small joys. I mean, you know, and who know, you know, sometimes you might not be able to. You have to get on a train or a plane or a bus or whatever. But I think it's coming back to those things that make you happy. Like, and the morning is like I keep on having to shift when I get up earlier because I've got a little one. So I'm like, no, because I need the time. Like I wanna do my morning pages. I want to get a workout in. And then I want to give you breakfast, but so I have to wake up that extra hour earlier to get those small joys in. For sure. And that coffee, that first coffee,
need
is the best. Yeah. So, I also saw a tweet where you, and I didn't actually, I probably would never have asked, you know, about your sexuality or anything like that, but I had just maybe felt like I knew. So people thought that a lot of the music that you was writing was about men.
Which is absolutely insane. Like I can't believe that. I really didn't know. I really did not know that people didn't realize I was gay. I'm like, obviously. First of all, I also use she her pronouns in a lot of my music, so
way too tender.
Sometimes I do wonder, like, do straight women write really beautiful love songs about men? Do we hear those?
Well, you know what?
They have throughout history,
exist, but not in this way.
Maybe not in this way. Okay, yeah.
No, they're not. I don't think they are. And also, I think there's sometimes a lot more from the ones that are out there are often sometimes more from an unrequited place.
Yeah,
you know, more
like more of a yearning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't do me wrong. Please love me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm here. That sort of thing. Whereas these are kind of a lot more kind of, I think, tender and maybe softer and more gentle in the kind of like the love that shared is. You know, it is different.
Yeah, no, it is for sure. It's definitely different.
So you cracked up at that. And how did you find out that they didn't know?
Well, I posted a photo of my girlfriend and I, and yeah, like so many people, like thousands of people responded being like, wait, you're gay? Wait,
No.
what? And I was like, hold on. Also, I think it's just like, the algorithm picked it up, and then it's
then
like
more people
saw it, and then it's like people who might not be like super fans of mine, but have heard maybe one or two of my songs, and then they're like, oh, that girl, like, wait, she's gay, like, then the core fans were just like, what do you mean, guys? Of course, like, have you even listened? Yeah,
arguing in the comments.
They started arguing in the comments. People get impassioned about that for some reason.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It'd be a good
really
sketch,
funny.
wouldn't it? To like, if you saw it in real life,
Yeah.
like, you're gay.
I know.
Gay. And there's like the ripple effects of it. But yeah, I guess I wonder how that made you feel. Was it a kind of like, in a way, obviously you can laugh about it, but was there an element of thinking about, because it's a process, isn't it? You've done the work, you've come out, you're living this life.
Yeah.
And then the internet makes it small again.
Well, no, I mean, honestly, I mainly just laughed about it, but when I look back and, like, we've known each other now for a long time, and I think in the earlier days of my career, I was not really open about it, and I avoided using she, her pronouns for a long time. I wasn't quite as comfortable, and also the culture has shifted a lot. Like, it's just a more socially acceptable thing. In fact, it's now like cool to be gay, which is great. But also, there have been, myself and also people way before me just had to like deal with, a harder experience coming out. So I think I can laugh about it now. Yeah, I can just laugh about it now.
Yeah.
But all while knowing that like it's taken me a while to get to this place of being like, oh, funny. I think if people had said mean things, then maybe it would have hurt. But I don't think anyone said anything mean other than just like, wait, what?
Yeah. And that's a kind of journey in itself, to be able to look back and to reflect actually kind of how far you've come.
Yeah,
and I guess that's something with the album, right? So Cyan Blue, I read it's like about kind of reconnecting with your inner child.
Yeah.
When you think about yourself as like your child version of you and how you grew up, is there a point of when you're like, this was like me in my pure innocence, just being a child, and then is there a point where I don't know, I guess that innocence has been lost a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't know if I could say exactly what that point was, but I think for sure, like, high school was a very hard time for me. Yeah, it's really hard when you don't know what you're going through. Like, as I was closeted to myself, so I didn't realize that there was something that I was like really pushing up against constantly. So I was getting in trouble a lot. I was getting suspended, arrested, like all of everything, just because I was just
coming out.
I was just acting out against everything, and just pretty bummed. But I always find a way to also just like, when I look back, just so grateful for music and film and art, because those were the things that helped me escape and into things that, I don't know, maybe were as, I don't know, evocative and heavy as the things that I was feeling, So that's where I found solace, and that's where I kind of, I went inward with myself and just like in my bedroom, watching films and listening to great music and getting an education in the things that were resonating with me versus kind of like participating in the culture of high school, I guess.
Yeah.
Which I was doing all the things that everyone else did too, but I think I just maybe was feeling a little bit heavier than everyone else.
Yeah. It's a tough time. High school is
That's hard.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't, I
wouldn't recommend.
Wouldn't recommend, and would not go back. Yeah. You couldn't pay me to be a high school child.
Which is good though. I think if you have a great time in high school, something's wrong with you.
Yeah, and you're gonna crash. You'll crash and burn soon. No, I'm joking. Yeah. Sorry, that was mean. You will not. Everything will be fine. You're all good. And were there outside factors, in the adult stage of you wanting to reconnect back?
I don't know how to describe it, but like I feel like I'm just perpetually interested in how, I don't know, maybe therapy, to be honest, just like doing therapy and like having those conversations of like recognizing how our childhoods really are just the core fundamentals that are influencing how we react to things in our adult life, and unpacking some of those things. Not that there was anything, you know, that drastically wrong with my childhood, but just like I can't help but think back on my younger self and try to understand my current self through the lens of the journey I've been through. And I think also like maybe I just have a hard time being present in general. You know, I have to remind myself constantly to enjoy the present. It's like I'm either like fixated on a future version of myself and or trying to understand how I got here. And I don't know necessarily what that is. Maybe I'm just curious, or maybe I'm self-indulgent, self-involved. I don't know.
No.
But I think it's just like trying to find ways to understand how I got here. Because also like, you know, my life is interesting and particular and unique. And I've been through a lot of tough things, but I've also been through a lot of amazing things. And I'm so, you know, in a particular position that not a lot of people end up being in. And just trying to make sense of it sometimes is where I find myself. So, yeah.
I think it's the perspective of how you see yourself as well. I don't think it's like self-indulgent at all. And everyone's at a different, everyone will see themselves in a different way. So some people, like I would know for myself, for example, I'm always looking at the future version of myself whilst trying to remain present, but I very rarely look back. And I know that that's something, you know, I wouldn't, and I would almost be scared in some ways to unpack
It's
my
scary.
childhood.
Yeah,
I would
it's super scary.
Because in my head, I'm like, it was fine, it was great, well, okay, woo.
Yeah. But I think, like I said, it's like sometimes I don't choose to work through these things. They just come out. Sometimes it's just I sit at the piano and you know it's there. You know it's lingering in the shadows of, you know, whatever you've been through, whatever we've all been through. It's all there. It doesn't go away, you know?
It's like filed. It's all in files.
Yeah.
I see it.
Yeah. It's all categorized.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, you strike a chord and it hits a memory, you know? So
it's a new day. That is the track that I chose to break down from Cyan Blue. Stunning song.
Thank you.
Honestly, it's so beautiful. All levels of it, all sort of layers of it. Do you remember that day of it first coming to you?
Yeah. It was in the morning and I was just, I guess, I just started playing the piano part that's in it and just singing some oohs along with it. And then I liked it, but I couldn't sing and play it at the same time yet. So I like recorded a little loop of it on an iPhone demo and put it into Ableton and then just looped it out and played it through the speakers and then just started singing whatever came to me on top of it. And yeah, it was one of those songs that like, you know, wrote itself. Like everything came out in one sitting. There was it probably like 20 minutes of writing, and it's crazy because that's like I love that you chose that song because it's the most meaningful song to me on the record, and I would say it was maybe the most important song that I've written, and so wild that like you can write something that heavy and that meaningful in a kind of flow state and not really be cerebral about it, not really be overthinking, and then after the fact be like, ooh, well, that's quite heavy.
Yeah.
Well, that's quite layered. That's quite, you know, so yeah.
And I think timely in some, you know, timely, and not many people write about this subject. So, I mean, this is me assuming the subject first. Because actually a lot of publications have picked up on it as the song, when they talk about the album, they'd be like, and they've also got New Day, the ballad.
I want to know what your perception of it is.
I perceived it as a desire for motherhood.
Yeah.
And you wanting to have a child and being in love with a partner and coming to a decision that you want to have a child. And it reminded me of a conversation that I had with my friend and her wife, and they were like, and I was pregnant at the time, and they were trying, and they were like, you know, Jamz, the thing is, it's not easy for us. We've spent lots of money, and it's taken us a long time to get here, and we've had to be very intentional with the fact that we want to bring life into this world.
Yeah.
And then listening to that song brought that conversation to life.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Yeah, it's something that I don't think that I've seen a lot of discourse on in pop culture, like what it means to want to have a child as a queer couple. You know, for me, obviously specifically as a lesbian couple, and that has its own challenges. I think it's honestly even harder for gay men. But yeah, it's just something that I am thinking about a lot, and that my partner and I think about, and that we talk about, and you do have to be so intentional about it to a point where like it can be stifling, you know? There's so many obstacles in the way. And, you know, even hearing you tell that story was just like, I kind of got like sad because I can imagine how your friends felt, you know, seeing how maybe, and I don't know what your experience was getting pregnant. Maybe there was challenges as well, but like there's like an element of like, you know, you don't want to feel jealous, but there's like an element of jealousy with how it can be easier for, you know, straight folks to just get pregnant and be like, oops.
There's always the whoops.
Yeah.
There's always
oops,
the whoops.
it happened and we're rolling with it and hee, so fun.
Yeah.
And then also hee, we get to see like the genes of both of you guys in this child and we get to be like, oh, like you have her nose and his eyes. Like those are things that like, you know, I have to like pre-grieve before I'm ready to.
I guess that's a pre-grief before and then to the acceptance then.
Well, yeah, just like, I don't know, preparing for things that I don't want to come up for me when it does happen. I want to have like worked through some of these things so that it doesn't like catch me by surprise. And then, you know, yeah, I don't want to have to like place that onto my family, my future family. I would rather work through those things myself beforehand because yeah, they're tough. They're weird things. Like, and then like also like, do I really want to bring a child into this fucked up world? I don't know.
Well, I'll zone in on that. I think what kind of this is quite a good. I've got to move around. Normally we do it in order of the song, but I think that for this type of song actually requires us to flip it up. So, but there's two things, maybe three in our way. The world crumbles each day, and I don't know who will carry. What will it cost us when everything's stacked against us? Stacked against us. Give her my name. I thought that's such a powerful part of the song because it is exactly what we've just been, you know, talking about. Is as it is. This is exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's definitely all right there in those lyrics. Like, those are the questions that I'm asking myself and that my partner and I ask each other. Like, yeah, literally, who's going to carry it?
Yeah.
And then for the other person who doesn't, you know, likely me, like. I don't know. Sheila Heti has this amazing book it's called Motherhood, and it's about how, like, as artists, our music and our art can often be the child that we leave in the world, and like we leave our mark through our art and through our work. And I think for a lot of years, I thought that that's what I wanted. I thought I wouldn't need a child to like feel like I'm somehow, you know, because I'm a very existential person. I'm like, there's an element of like wanting to leave our genetic trace behind once we're no longer here. I think there's like a very human and biological element of wanting to do that, and
it's lineage, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's also survival.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, kind of at a really core level,
for sure. And I think, you know, definitely music and art is like, it will last forever, and I'm so grateful for that. I have these little music babies that will always be there. But how to work through whether I won't be genetically tied to this child, this future potential child that I have, like, well, at least I have made a name for myself through my music, and that child could have my name, you know? And
because that's what comes out throughout the song. It's like, give her my name.
Yeah.
Give her my name. And that's it, you know, that felt like it's an important thing to give your name, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and I think even in a you know, I actually think we did like a double barrel. But it was a thing to be like, no, she's going to have my name too.
Right, know? Yeah.
And there was an ego thing. It's not the lineage. It doesn't stop here.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to carry on here.
Yep.
And even sometimes, you know, sometimes in a heteronormative relationship, that's when the woman can lose that because it does stop. Right. It does stop there. But I also thought about the bringing a child into the world, you know, and what I wanted to know, like, because that's what people always ask, you know, and there's some people that are like, completely don't want to bring a child into this world for the reasons of, you know, what's happening. Yeah. You know, how do you reason with that? What's your reasoning? I'll tell you mine.
For why you do want to bring? Yeah. Mine is that I'm curious about the type of love that you could feel towards, you know, your own child. I think, like, you know, obviously I have a fixation, and I'm not a fixation, but I do think, again, to be existential, like, love really is the meaning of it all for me. When I sit back and I try to understand what is the purpose of being here, it's to connect with folks and to love and be loved well. And that's platonic, that's familial, that's romantic. And I think like, I don't know, I think it's so beautiful seeing how people connect with their children. And I want to experience that level of love for my child, and then also for like, you know, the other mother of my child, and how like I'm so curious, you know. I'm a lover, so I want to know what that feels like. Yeah. But I mean, the thing that scares me the most is just phones. Like I don't fucking want that. I don't want to see my kid get ruined by a phone.
It's hard.
I can only imagine. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, and there's only so long. Well, I don't know. Unless I was going to be like militant with it, there's only so long that you
can control that.
Yeah, can control it. Mine was actually hope.
Hope.
In the face of a shitty world or terrible things happening, there has to be hope. And I think of I remember my mum talking about it, and statistically, you know, there's a lot of babies born during war. In war-torn countries, you know, babies are still being born, and part of it is for the community to continue.
Yeah,
you know, and I thought about that in the world. It's like, yeah, there has to be this level of hope, and if I don't have hope, then I don't have.
What do you have to live for?
Yeah, essentially, yeah. And so I thought hope, and then I remember saying, you know, sometimes we have these like conversations. People will ask you like, why did you have a child, sort of thing. Not in a way like that, but they're trying to work it out in their head. And I was like, you know, and I was like, anyway, who knows? She might change the world. And then they were like, what if she doesn't? I was like, it doesn't matter, but she might. Yeah. There's emphasis on the might.
Yeah. Also, someone has to.
Somebody has to, right?
Might as well be her.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of where I got to. Something that comes up again as part of the song, but I want a new day. I want a new day, even if she doesn't have my face. I want a new day. I want a new day. I want a new day, even if she doesn't have my face. Is there a double meaning in the new day?
Yeah.
So yeah, Charlotte Day, Wilson, and then a new day as in a new chapter, would you say? Yeah.
Yeah. New chapter, new child, different, like, yeah, hope for a future.
Is there a technicality to the way that you write when you read it back, you know, in terms of like the phrasing, where things sit, where repetition comes in? I know it was in the flow state, but when you look back at how you wrote.
No, I think it's just instinctual. I think like when you are a student of great music and you listen to like the great songwriters of our generations, like it hopefully, you know, finds its place into like a instinctual part of how things kind of flow through you. So it's not a really intentional practice for me when I songwrite. It's more just the instincts tell me where to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I would love to like be a little sort of like fly on the wall.
No one will ever be. Honestly,
really?
No, I can't do it really around other people. Like I wrote some of the songs with my friend Jack in the room, Jack Roshan, who produced the record with me.
And that was a new experience.
New experience completely.
To have a co-producer.
Yeah. And he's like one of the few people that I feel really comfortable being like weird in the room with, but I would still say that I can't quite access it in the same way. I think it's just something about being allowed to like say dumb things without anyone being there to like judge or have any perception that there could be judgment in the room, even if there isn't any. Like, I think I just need to be fully alone to write something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need the environment. But I did read that he would tell you if a lyric was shit.
Yeah.
Like in that way, he was like,
"Oh yeah, it was
Charlotte, that's shit."
Yeah, I would be like, because my perception of everything is off because there's someone else in the room. I'm like, maybe is it good? Is it fine? I'd be like, we'll come back to this one tomorrow.
That's quite a nice way of saying it. Yeah,
let's sleep on it.
Let's sleep on it, and then you kind of inferred he means it's shit.
Yeah. He'd be like, let's try again tomorrow.
It's good that he had the confidence to also be able to go to lead. In that respect. No.
It's like so important. You know, you can't be with a yes man. Like then you know something's wrong.
Yeah. Do you think that happens? You know, have you know lots of other musicians and at different points in their career. Have you seen that happen? Because I think I can see that happen as I watch an artist catalog on the way that it changes, or if it changes, or if it doesn't change, you know, whatever. Yeah. That I feel like they've had too many yes people around them.
For sure. Yeah, I think there's like a lot of yes people around, and I think there's also a lot of really critical, like big time people who I would never want to work with too, like who kind of can do a number on your confidence
and break you down, build you up there.
So it's that's why Jack is such an important producer, and I believe he'll go on to produce, like, I mean, he's produced some amazing records. He's got like the perfect balance of like critical ears. You know, he can play every instrument so beautifully, but he's always connecting with something bigger than himself. You know, he closes his eyes and he really feels. He's not just like, there's a cool loop, like, does this work? You know, like everything is he's trying to evoke and connect with something bigger than himself. And then, yeah, he's just like very, very encouraging, and he's good for the self-confidence and also for being completely honest when something is not quite there, but he knows how to kind of siphon that language down into a place that feels really like gentle.
Yeah, supportive.
Yeah.
He sounds amazing. He sounds
he's amazing.
How did you
Shout out to
find
Jack
him?
Roshan. We've known each other for so long. He was in my band when I first started touring. He and then turned into my musical director for the live show. And then, you know, he stopped touring because he moved to LA to be a producer and became, you know, successful at doing that. And so didn't want to do the road dog life anymore. But yeah.
It's good that, you know, again, it's like working with people that you trust and that you've chosen to work with. Because again, the second album is like, right, again, eyes on you, even more eyes on you.
Yeah.
Okay, you can literally be like, we can get you in with the biggest person. You want that person, you can have that person. You want that writer, you can have that writer.
Yeah.
And you have to bring it back.
No, I tried that. Like earlier on in my career, like people being like, you know, there's so many people interested in doing a session. So I tried to do them and I felt awful for almost all of them. Yeah. And it's not necessarily other people's faults per se. No. It's just, you know, again, the like perception of judgment that could be there was kind of eating away at me. So,
and what about the I hope I say it right, synesthesia? Yeah, synesthesia. I'd only heard about synesthesia through an artist called Dave, and I remember he's a rapper, like quite a big UK rapper, and I remember watching him play at a festival called Great Escape Festival. And he was like one of his first showcases, super new, and he had his eyes closed and he was rapping, but it's like he was reaching for something. Yeah. And it was like, and they were like, oh, it's because he's got synesthesia. He's seeing, and I was like, what's that? He's like, he's seeing colours when the music is playing. Yeah. And that like blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, that is the higher thing.
For sure. I mean, it's weird because it almost doesn't feel like, you know, when I say we're reaching for something or like trying to connect with something bigger than ourselves, like, I think it is like we're reaching for maybe a higher power sometimes. Maybe it's a spiritual thing of kind of trying to find connectivity through something beyond the tangible realm, you know, that will find its way to us and other people. And how does that influence where we turn right, left when we're songwriting? But I think it almost doesn't feel like that meaningful enough to just be reaching for colors, but it is a thing. Like that's what was happening for me with this record. And a lot of times it's just like, I knew that I was in a blue-green palette. And if it started to veer into like red, I just didn't want it. And so I was just always trying to find my way back to the blue-greens.
Wow. And there's that like, can you quantify it into words? Is it particular chords? Is it, you know, the way the music's phrased?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's particular chords. It's shapes of words. It's shapes of drum sounds. It's like frequencies. And obviously it's subjective to your own internal palette.
Yeah. And your frequencies will be different to mine. Yeah. What's like, blue to me might not be blue to you.
Exactly, yeah. It's crazy though, because some people have perfect pitch through synesthesia, which is absolutely insane. Wow. Like they know that D is blue. Wow. And so they'll be like, well, just picture blue and I can sing a D, which is crazy.
And you said the shape of words as well. So when you're thinking about how you wrote this song and the shape of the words, what is it that feels blue to you? Because actually when I print it off and I write it out, it's quite neat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe for me, blue feels a little bit like, it's like the in-between space between legato and staccato. It's not quite one way and it's not the other way. It's just trying to find this happy medium between something that is like a little bit vertical, like it's not completely horizontal, and it's but it's like pushing to a thing that's next, and I don't know how.
Yeah, but I know I understand it, and I can actually see it. Like, please, if you're at home and you want to nerd out in a nerdy way, then look at the lyrics and see how they're written and how the lines fall. Right. Some of them slightly go like that and are a bit longer, and then some of them are like bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
You know.
Cool.
That is pretty cool. Yeah, I love it. That's a little Easter egg that didn't mean to happen, but it's happening. Yeah. And I mean, that kind of actually, you were described by the sort of blurb on the album, that your songwriting is time bending. And I was like, what does time bending mean? It's a great description of a songwriter. So I wondered what it means to you to be a time bending songwriter.
I think it's kind of like what we were talking about earlier about just kind of my need to like be constantly in the future and in the past, you know, like I'm trying to find myself in the middle ground, and I want to ground myself in the middle, but I don't know how to a lot of the time. I don't know how to connect with the present, even though that's the thing that I want the most. I want so badly to connect with you right now in this room. I want to connect with you and you. Like, I genuinely desire that so much, but I have a hard time doing it a lot of the time. Like, I don't know if it's like a social inept thing that I have, that I'm like, I just have a hard time being present and not thinking about all the other things that are present in the room, you know? So I find that music is my way to try and find that place in the middle. And when I'm songwriting, it's you have no choice other than to be there in the moment and you know, bring into the room whatever is at play, but it is happening in the moment and it is present, and no one can argue that, even if you are working through themes of past, present, and future,
to get it down
in that moment. But it's also, what's so amazing about it is that it does end up connecting me with folks, whether it's happening like later on, you know, when people get to hear the music after it's been made. But I have a deep desire to connect with people. I just don't always know how to do it. So music is my vessel for that.
You know, it's interesting. I thought another reason about why I wanted a child. And part of it was to be present.
Yeah.
And to be present in something bigger than myself. You know, like in these kind of careers that you have, it's all about you. Everything's about you. It's about your brand, what you want to do, the decisions you want to make, where you see yourself, what you want to do next. It's you. And there was this desire to think about something bigger than me, but also the idea of being present.
Yeah. I'm sure it does that. I'm sure it's just like, you got to feed the child.
Yeah, you know.
You got to like,
you got to play with the child. You got to, you know.
And they are so present. So like present. The way that they bend time is insane. Like an hour with a child is like, feels like 10 hours.
It's intense, you know, especially if you're like, you know, take away the screens.
Yeah.
You know, you take away the screens, like it's constant. But there's a beauty to it.
Yeah.
And I think in that moment, you know, like, and what I've experienced like since, that being present is kind of the small joys.
Yeah.
It's like you wake up, something shitty could happen yesterday.
Yeah.
Something shitty could be happening later. Right now.
Yeah.
It's me and you.
Yeah.
And we're going to do what you want.
Oh, that's beautiful. I'm sure you're such an amazing parent, too, for being able to, like, you know, connect in those moments. Because
I need it. I'm striving for it. That's what I'm striving for.
You need it, but also your child needs it, you know? I think a lot of parents miss that, too. Like, you know.
Life is life.
Life is life. And, you know, people get distracted. People are preoccupied. Everything is stressful. There's so much external stimuli constantly. But, like, to be able to, just be present with your child, listen to them, you know.
And my mom can do that with her on a different level, because she's a grandparent, so she has to think about the washing, you know, the washing, which that's what she strives for.
Right.
She loves being with her because she wants that, that present thing. And maybe it's, something, I don't know, maybe something healing in it for whoever, you know, whether it's not even a grandparent or paternal parent, a friend that wants to spend time with your child, you know, sometimes they'll be like, I need to do that time today, thank you. Not about seeing me, it's about that connecting with the inner child.
Yes.
And I think it's actually really cool to hear a song about, I've not heard a modern song about the want to be a parent. And sometimes I think actually as women, you know, we've come such a long way in terms of like in society that sometimes you don't feel you're able to say out loud that I desire to be a parent. I am built to be a parent. And that's what you say in the song. It's what I'm built for.
Yeah.
You know, and I've never heard it said that way.
Yeah. Funny things that flow out when you're not really overthinking it, you know? But 100%. I mean, it was honestly pretty scary to put this song out too, because it isn't something that we like, I don't know, for some reason, there's like a tabooness about talking about how you desire to have a child. Maybe there's also fear attached to it. Like, what if it doesn't happen? And then I have this song that exists in the world that people are going to be like, ooh, she never had a child. That's embarrassing. Like,
no, I understand that. Yeah, you know, I do understand that. Yeah.
It's like
it's out of your control in so many ways, but it's in your control, obviously, the intention, the process that you'll go on, but it's still out of control.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting.
I think it's a really powerful song.
Thank you so much.
That just feels, so needed. And I want to share it with my friends, actually,
You should.
the friends that I spoke about.
Yeah, for sure.
Who I'm seeing actually later on today. So I want to share that song because I feel like that they will understand.
Yeah, you guys got to have a group cry about that one. Me and my friends had a group cry about it. Oh yeah, I showed my lesbian friends that song, and they all started weeping. Yeah. It was so intense. It was too intense.
That's important, right? To have that connection.
Well, yeah, they were just like, "Whoa, I haven't heard this before."
Yeah,
hard
thing to do to write something that hasn't been written before.
Yeah, actually, I wonder if it has been written about before. I'd love to hear other. I'm sure it's been explored in other ways. So, if anyone knows,
we can make a little playlist. Listen to it. Let us know if there are any other songs. I'm sure they would have been, but maybe in more subtle ways.
Like I've definitely read, writers who write about it, but just in song, I don't know if I've heard that many.
Well, we can throw it out there. Yeah. Make a little playlist.
For sure.
Who are your favorite writers, songwriters?
I think Joni Mitchell is obviously one of best songwriters of our time. D'Angelo is one of my favorite songwriters of all time. I think he has this amazing way of making the words just sound really good coming out of his mouth, and you don't even need to be an active listener to know that it feels and sounds good. But then if you are an active listener and you read through the lyrics, there's so much depth to them. I guess I've just listened to so much music that there's just so many. There's
two great examples, Joni and D'Angelo, and quite different as well in style of writing. But hearing you say both those artists, I can see how it lives within
Stevie Wonder.
Work.
Stevie Wonder needs to be in there too.
Why Stevie? What would you say about Stevie Wonder? Because D'Angelo, I think there's so many for our generation. Yeah, we've got to go Voodoo album. People are like this cult.
Yeah,
Stevie's slightly ahead of our of us.
I think Stevie was really experimental in a way that also reached the masses and changed how we perceive pop music in a lot of ways, because it was popular music, but it still was there were so many weird elements to it, and I don't know, talk about trying to channel something bigger than yourself you couldn't see. So it's just the visual language that he writes about is so when you really think through in the visions of my mind, all of these just I don't know, just thinking through the lyrics or listening to them with the lens of maybe he didn't have the visual lens of it's kind of amazing. So yeah.
And why Joni? What is it about
Joni's Joni's a rapper before she can fit so many words into a phrase that, her storytelling is amazing. She's not always writing about herself, or she writes in third person in a way that kind of, I feel can be nice, I don't know, to connect with when it's not always just I, me. But yeah, she can fit so many words into a phrase in this way that's completely unique to her. People can't cover Joni Mitchell's music because they just can't get the words out in the same way that she can, and also Blue is an amazing record, and the story behind that music. And I think there's something so special about when we don't necessarily know what an artist is going through, but the music still hits, and then you learn after the fact really what it was about. And it just continues to breathe new life into the music. And talk about, singing about children and life coming into, I don't know. Yeah. Stevie also writes so much about that, about his children and stuff. So yeah.
And when you perform this song, then how does that feel?
I didn't perform this song on tour. I didn't perform the lyrics of it because I don't know, maybe it was too heavy, but I did a few intimate performances, and I think I'm going to start putting it back into the set list in the bigger shows. But I think it's so personal that if people aren't listening to it in the way that I would hope that they would, I might feel crushed. I'm too vulnerable about it. So I like performing it in really intimate settings. And but in the moments when I did perform it, I honestly, it was just hard for me not to cry, because it's not that it's sad, but it's just maybe I'm just so proud that I made this song that means so much to me, and that I know if you're listening and you kind of are working through the lyrics, it will be moving, and also both times, like my partner has been in the crowd too, and just like I remember showing her the song for the first time and she cried, and just like it's just, you know, it's just really heavy. And I think maybe in some way I want to protect that feeling, so like I don't want to like overdo it by performing it all the time. I don't want to get to a place with it where it's like I'm just singing it through muscle memory and not through a feeling
or an autopilot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it needs that. It does need it. That's interesting to hear, though, as well, the protection around the song. And I know you've been playing a lot of festivals recently.
Yeah, like I would never play that at a festival.
They don't deserve it. They're being messy UK drunks. They don't deserve it. You've mentioned active listening in this conversation and in previous interviews, and I think you just reminded me, you know, to actively listen, and that's what's been so great about this podcast. It's the research into the active listening and why I do it. And I always remember with you, I always loved your songs, and maybe I was always drawn in by the production and your voice. You know, your voice is such a unique voice, and there were songs like lyrically that spoke to me, of course, but to actively listen to you on this album in this chapter of your career felt like a really special time spent.
Cool.
I really enjoyed it. And I went, you know, over it and over it and over it.
Cool.
On loop.
I appreciate that.
I'm one of the millions of people that are streaming your music at this very point in time.
We need active listeners. I think those are generally who my fans are for the most part, or those are who I want my fans to be, as active listeners. And that's what I learn and see when I'm touring too, is like, it's cool to like watch people sing back lyrics that I wouldn't expect them to have already digested. Like I went on tour 2 weeks after the album came out, and it was like so amazing to see so many people singing back the lyrics of songs that just had come out. And yeah, I mean, you learn so much more about the artist when you really dissect, you know. So yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Well, we always ask to think of a line from the song. So from New Day to leave people with. It could be your favorite line. It could be a line that resonates with what we spoke about. Just, yeah, what line means the most to you?
Yeah, I guess literally just, I want a new day. I like, yeah, I do. It's like, I think that kind of summarizes our conversation too. Finding a way into the future that feels honest, that does justice from our pasts and grounds us in the present, but looks forward to, you know, a new day.
Yeah. I think you're going to be an incredible mother.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I wish you all the best. Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you. This was an amazing conversation. This is rare, you know? It's rare to have interviews that feel really like, it's not just, because this wasn't an interview, it was a conversation, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
A highly informed conversation. So yeah, I appreciate you so much.
I'm blushing. Thank you.